Hey YouTube, it's me, Justin the Divine, and today I wanted to talk about something that's been on a lot of people's minds, and that is what's after Metal Gear 5? What is Hideo Kojima, the director of the Metal Gear series, gonna do next? And, well, we could talk about this from two points of view, and that is the mechanics of the game or the story of the game. And I'd like to focus on the story because Hideo Kojima's games, for the most part, have always been story driven. Now, we are going to have to go back a little bit to see the progression of the story of Kojima's games and where he's headed as a director, because Metal Gear 5 is actually contrary to that. Rather than delivering a compelling experience, Metal Gear 5 was about rather than delivering a compelling story, it was more about delivering a definitive gameplay experience. Like, this is the definitive Metal Gear, this is the vision I had all along for how you would play the game, rather than any sort of new story. And that's because if you go back to Metal Gear 4, it was more about tying loose ends than providing a new story of its own. And if you go to Metal Gear 3, that was more about going into the past, like Star Wars did, and providing some background story. So I think where he's really going to carry on as a director, whether it be the next game or the one after that, is he's going to go back to Metal Gear 2. And he's going to expand upon what he covered in Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid 2 that is. And that's really where he's going to go. I know it's going to be a completely different series. He doesn't have the rights to Metal Gear Solid. That was left with Konami. But as a director and in the direction he's going for in his story progression and the things he wants to teach people, I think he's going to come back to where Metal Gear 2 left off. So let's talk about Metal Gear Solid 2 for a while, for those of you who don't remember. Well, Hideo Kojima, as many of you know, he likes to do something unexpected with each game. So, in Metal Gear Solid 2, he realized people were expecting to play as Snake. Snake is very combat savvy, very skilled, very masculine, very cool guy. So Hideo Kojima thought, why don't I make the main character someone who is the opposite of Snake? He's a rookie, he has no idea what he's doing, he's not manly at all, he's actually, like, he looks feminine. And he's just an overall just like an unappealing character. But what makes it so good and what makes Kojima such a genius is that even though he does this, the game is like absolutely amazing, and it's like my favorite game because of the way he does it. I mean, Hideo Kojima could probably make a game about taking out the trash, and it would be just absolutely amazing. So how is this so? Well, because when Raiden is so like inexperienced and feminine, even he makes Snake look even more of a badass. But it's more than that, because by Snake teaching Raiden, that's the same thing as Hideo Kojima teaching the player, not just about combat, but about world affairs and about life in general. And it goes to this Shakespearean element where in Hamlet, I don't know if Shakespeare started this, but a lot of people like to reference him. We see when Hamlet is teaching someone what makes a good actor, that's the same thing as Shakespeare teaching people what makes a good actor. And so he has this sort of Shakespearean element in his games. You see these things, and that's what makes them so deep. So what is he teaching him? Well, the games, Metal Gear Solid games, as many of you know, are about stopping the nuclear tank known as Metal Gear. But things aren't as they seem, because you notice the terrorists are funded by the US government, and there's a government behind the government, uh, and all these things relate to real life. Like in real life, U.S. government does fund terrorists. There is a government behind the government. Most people, they don't refer to it as the Patriots. That's what the game made up, but a lot of people would refer to it as the Illuminati. So we see these different elements, and it's definitely a very powerful game. Probably my favorite game. Very story driven, and I want to share a few quotes from you from this game, where Snake talks about life in general. So he says to Raiden, "Find something to believe in and find it for yourself. When you do, pass it on to the future. We can tell other people about having faith, what we had faith in, what we found important enough to fight for. It's not whether you are right or wrong, but how much faith you are willing to have. That decides the future. Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing. We've inherited freedom for all those who have fought for it." So yeah, and he educates Raiden just on life in general, and definitely a very powerful game. So what I'm trying to say here is that I think the next game will carry on from that, because that was, I feel, his last big game. And I know a lot of people will say, no, I didn't like it, Raiden sucked, but you're not really seeing it from his vision. Okay? Because Kojima has always been about doing what he wants to do, not doing what the players want, defying their expectations. So even though you might not like the fact that I say he's gonna carry on from Metal Gear Solid 2 because you didn't like it, you're really turned off by Raiden, you have to understand that he's not gonna he's not just concerned about you. He does what he wants. He is a true director. He is not he's not your typical kind of guy. That's what he's always been about. So even though you may not like it just because it reminds you of Raiden and you didn't like that character, that's not what it's about. It's about what he's gonna do, not what you want. He's always been about doing his own thing, which defies expectations. So anyway, I think he's gonna continue from where he left off. And I know it's not going to be directly related to Metal Gear, but it's this sort of idea that there is nothing is as it seems, that there are just government corruption. And so where do most people go when they research this stuff? Well, they think of it even deeper. They think, who is behind the Illuminati? Who watches the Watchmen? And a lot of people come to the conclusion that it is alien beings. They believe in UFOs. And these alien beings, specifically because there's many different races, are referred to as the Archons. Now, I know this is very hard for some of you to believe. And I'm not saying you have to believe it. But I'm saying that Kojima, as it is obvious in his games, is a conspiracy theorist. And so this is just a direction that most people go to when they're researching these things. So I think it's going to be about these alien beings, and this may be hard for some of you to visualize, but look back to The Matrix. That is the perfect example, probably the best movie ever made, because it is so enlightening. And a lot of people don't realize there's a lot more truth to that movie than is fiction. It is not science fiction, it is science reality. So I think this is the direction he's going with his movies. He's going to make something Matrix style. And that doesn't mean it has to be an action game. Like I said, Kojima has always been about defying players' expectations. He may want to do something completely unique, where you're just the getaway driver. Because on Twitter, he posts, he loves the movie Drive and The Driver, which was like inspiration for Drive. He posts that stuff on Twitter. He really likes racing. He hasn't done a racing game. Maybe it'll be you're just the getaway driver for these for these sort of sci-fi heroes. Uh, so I think that's definitely a possibility in the gameplay. But that's more open-ended. The story, there's more of a, I don't want to say linear because it's not linear, but there's more of a straightforward progression which we can analyze. And so I think it'll be a Matrix type story. That's what I think. And I think those of you who are into Metal Gear, who haven't seen the movie The Matrix, you should go and watch it. And it's really enlightening. And I think he's going to do something like that. Now, the second and third movie, as many people will tell you, were not well done. I recommend you don't see them. There's even conspiracies that Hollywood took over and made them bad on purpose because they wanted to get people out of the Matrix fandom, because it kind of goes against the system, the system, this global system of control that we have. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I'm leaving it up in the air. But what I'm saying is that they weren't good. Don't watch 2 and 3. Don't watch the Animatrix. Just watch the first movie, and it's amazing. And then I think if you're really confused right now, you'll kind of see that, oh, yes, I can see Kojima going in this direction right now. And it'll be pretty original because The Matrix came out, why am I even looking at the calendar? Matrix came out in 1998, we're in 2015. So, I think it'll have a big impact, and I really think this is something he's going to do. And I know it took me a really long time to get to that point, but I kind of had to explain other things so you would understand where I'm going. And so I know this was a long discussion, and for those of you who watched the whole thing, I'm really impressed that you stuck around. Kudos to you, and whatever his next game is, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you, and may Brahman be with you.